Hello, everybody, and welcome to VolunteerFest 2020. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. Whether you're watching live or watching the recording, we appreciate you giving your time to hear some of the volunteer opportunities that are in our community. And hopefully tonight in this session, you hear something that speaks to you and you find a volunteer fit that really works and is great for everybody involved. My name is Brad Creighton, and I'm responsible for community engagement and events at Volunteer Fox Cities. And I know you don't want to hear me talk a ton. That's not what you're watching for, but just a couple things to remember. First, all these sessions are being recorded. So just so you know that ahead of time, if you don't like being on camera and you're watching live, you can always use the chat and then the recording will not get you. So that's, you can still have your questions answered that way. And make sure you check out the schedule at volunteerfoxcities.org/volunteerfest to see who else is coming up tonight as well as tomorrow. And make sure you click on the one-stop shop to see all the information that you hear in this session from the Fox Cities Crisis Response Team, as well as the other organizations that are participating as well. So with that, that's enough for me. I am very pleased to introduce Emily from the Fox Cities Victim Crisis Response Team, and I will let her take it away.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Emily Lewis. I'm the Executive Director at Fox Cities Victim Crisis Response Team, and we are here. Cheryl is one of our volunteers, and we're here kind of to talk about what our agency does. We are an agency that is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we have been around for 23 years. October was our 23rd anniversary of our organization. We work in conjunction with law enforcement, and we go on scene with victims of crime and those in crisis. And we also help victims of crime and those in crisis post-incident of those types of incidences. So suicides, homicides, natural death, sexual assaults, domestic violence, pretty much anything that law enforcement feels that people on scene need assistance. We come out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We have an extensive training process that our volunteers have to go through because this is a very specialized type of training opportunity. When the phone rings, you have to respond and be prepared for pretty much anything. Cheryl, can you just, to kind of break the ice, explain a little bit what it feels like to be a volunteer, and then after you talk about that, we can talk a little bit more about what training looks like.
I'm Cheryl. I have been with the program for a little over a year. I have been on several calls over that year time. I feel like being there for the victims that have gone through traumatic situations, when you've experienced something like that in your past and not having somebody there, it's very rewarding to be able to give back to somebody when they have gone through that awful traumatic time. So it's a great group of people. We work as a team and very reliable, very approachable, and you've got a huge support system.
Yes, so when it comes to wanting to be a volunteer, what I love about our agency versus other agencies that I've worked with, we have such a diverse and compassionate and talented group of volunteers that want to go out in the field and help people, whether it's in the morning or the middle of the night. When the phone rings, we respond. Training is, like I said, extensive. We have an orientation to just really go over our video that you can find as well on the one-stop shop. And then we have a pre-interview. We just really like to sit down with potential volunteers and figure out what led them to us, what their passion area is, and really let them know what it entails before they go on the training process, because it is 24 hours of in-classroom training after that first interview. What makes our training pretty awesome is that we involve a lot of our community partners. We have training on domestic violence. We have our law enforcement partners come in and talk about what it is like to be in law enforcement and really understanding what that role is and how we work in conjunction with them. We also had the coroner come in because we respond to a lot of death scenes, and really having that information and being prepared to deal with all of that is critical, because when we're on scene, we do three main things. We help victims feel safe, we let them express emotions, and we help them understand what is expected to come next. This is proven to lessen the long-term trauma that any of these incidences can have on somebody. We do a lot of role playing. I know people don't love role playing, but we do need to warn you, if you want to volunteer with us, you will have to role play, because we really want the volunteers to have experience really talking to someone in crisis. And you would think role playing isn't really all that realistic. We have some pretty phenomenal actors and actresses in our team, and they really know how to bring it to put you in that situation. We'd rather you fumble and stumble in a learning environment than on scene. So we really do enjoy the rigors of that, and we all had to do it. Even I had to do it. So it's just one of those experiences where I just think it really helps you know really what types of things you're going to be walking into. Cheryl, you know, you've been with us for a while and you go on a lot of calls. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about one or two of your most memorable experiences that you've had helping someone navigate their crisis?
I think there's two that really stand out that were extremely memorable for me. One was a death notification. And when I arrived on scene, we always go out in twos. Or we try to go out in twos. That's pretty much our protocol. So my partner and I arrived on scene, and I literally could hear the screaming out by my car from the family inside, because the officers had just notified them of their loved one that had passed away. And there were children involved. And so walking in and trying to navigate, you kind of, through training, you will learn that you will kind of gravitate to one side or the other. And in this case, I was with the older mother. So I literally just knelt next to her while she sobbed uncontrollably for the next 20 minutes. And then from there, you know, you have to be comfortable with silence. One thing that you will learn is that you do not have to always be talking or have an answer, because you're not going to have all the answers. So it's really important to know that it's okay to sit there and not say anything. And that's exactly what happened in this case. And we were on that call for probably a good 3 hours, and that's the average is 2. So, I mean, and you can go, my other call that I'm going to talk about was, I was on that call for 13 hours. And it was a murder suicide. And it, you know, we had 2 sets of families that we had to deal with. And it, you know, I was with one family, my partner was with another family, and it was a very long, drawn out process. And, you know, there's a lot that goes into it involving, you know, crime scenes and police officers and coroners and investigators. And it took a really long time. So, but there is this feeling when you leave that scene that you have given the family and these victims resources, you have given them support, and you've kind of set them up so that they can learn to support others, or like lean on their family or their support system that are coming in. So, you know, we will do a follow-up call and check on them, you know, in a few weeks. And then after that, you kind of cut ties. You don't want to hold on. You know, it's something you'll always remember, but you don't keep in contact.
And part of what makes us unique is that we are really that resource bridge. What we probably, and you guys have seen, and you are experiencing, is that we live in an area that is very resource rich. So we really have the ability to connect victims and survivors with what they need for their personal healing journey. When we're on scene with them, we leave a tailor-made folder with all the community resources that pertain to their circumstance, and leave it with them so that they have the resources they need to get the help that they need, and we lean on our community partners and take pride in them coming to train us. And we have monthly meetings and we have monthly training to make sure that we are equipped to deal with the types of things that we're going to be seeing and doing. Because when you have to prepare for everything, you have to stay prepared for everything. So we really look at the trends of what's happening, what types of calls we're seeing, and make sure that we are really training to meet those needs. And one thing that I'm very proud of that we have in our agency is that we do have mental health services for our volunteers. You know, we have to be considerate to the cumulative trauma that they might experience by going from a suicide to a homicide to a death, and how that trauma, we don't want them carrying that trauma either. So we do take good care of our volunteers, and we really want to make sure that they are well too, because it takes a very special person to wake up in the middle of the night, roll out of bed and put their helper hat on and really be a compassionate support and companion with someone through these circumstances, because they're not easy and they affect us. And, you know, they take little pieces of our heart that we'll always take with them. You know, for me, playing board games with some children in the middle of the night while they were dealing with a pretty traumatic family situation, you know, is an honor and a gift and a privilege to be able to be with people during those moments. And, you know, you kind of leave and you're like, oh, that was something, but you know that you've left them better off than they were had you not been there. And, you know, we do take pride in the fact that that we do know it's an honor and we do know it's a privilege, and it's not something we take lightly at all. So we feel pretty lucky that we get to do this thing, because it's pretty remarkable, I think.
I'm just kind of curious, how many current responders do you guys have? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yes, we have 40 volunteers right now. And with COVID-19, not all are actively going on scene, which is fine because we have 3 levels of response. So our first level of response is that on-scene immediate response with law enforcement at the time of the incident. And that is, you know, when we're full action, we could have 30 calls a month. So we are pretty busy. And then with our tier 2, it's those incidents that occur that maybe it wasn't safe or the survivor wasn't quite ready to have somebody to talk to at the time. So we connect via phone or in person a couple days up to a week or so after. And then our third tier is our crime support resolution program. And we call victims of crime and check in and see how they're doing, and really just make sure that they have the connection. Those are more theft of property, damage of property, some neighbor disputes. We're seeing a lot of fraud cases right now, and really helping the people that have experienced it some semblance of resource help and some semblance of that it's okay to have these feelings. As we know that trauma doesn't work the same way for everybody. You know, sometimes right away you're not ready for that help. It is too traumatic, it is too hard. And we'll be there throughout the time that they need us, you know. So we really are there whenever is needed, and for whatever is needed. So which makes it very exciting all the time.
Oh, I got a weird thing going on here. There we go. I mean, thank you for being here and doing that. So does it work on like an on-call system, or like, you know, I'm on call for these 3 days, or how does that kind of work if you're a responder?
Cheryl, do you want to speak to how on-call works?
Sure. So we have an app that we use that we sign up on call. There is I mean, right now, because of COVID, it's a lot more lenient, but typically you are required to meet at least 12 hours of on-call time, and 4 of those 12 hours have to be on an overnight. But with COVID right now, it's a lot more lenient because we don't have as many people responding out. But you do sign up on call, you go online, you put your time that you're available in. Every day has an on-call lead. So it might be Emily, it might be Tina, it might be myself. There's several people that sign up for that. So, and then that person is just in charge of fielding what the calls are that come in, and then making sure that the appropriate response is being sent out. So, and then we also have their app that we use just to keep our, it's just locally for our group that we can say, you know, that we're responding to this police department at this time, because when we go back to fill out our reports, we need that information. We need the times for the calls that come out, and that is for the grant down the road.
So does the call come directly from the police department, or does it come from somebody else?
It comes from dispatch. So we cover both Outagamie and Winnebago counties. And Emily, you might have to tell the number of police departments, but I know we go as far north as Oneida and as far south as Amaro. So we do cover a very large area. And I can say that I've been to just about every police station in those areas. So, but it depending on the dispatch, whether it's Winnebago or Outagamie County, we have those numbers programmed into our phones, our cell phones. The calls come in and then the information is given to us. Sometimes it's given through, it comes in as a text and a phone call together. So sometimes it's given in the text, otherwise you call into dispatch to let them know that you're coming in, and B, asking what the information is prior to getting to on scene.
Okay, great. And then you said you try to go at least in pairs, and you just meet your partner there, or do you meet up and go together, or how's that work?
It really does depend. With the new trainees, sometimes we will ride together. It also depends on where the call is at. Sometimes when it's out on the Indian Reservation, or if we have to go to New London, that type of distance and the weather, we have carpooled. We've met somewhere and carpooled out together. Other times, a lot of times we just meet on scene and then go in together. So
it's just something that you work out with the partner, right?
That's correct. So you can call and text them on your way to the call and just say, okay, I'm X amount of minutes or miles out. Where are you? And then if they're further than you, you can say, well, I'll go ahead and then you can come on in when you get there.
Okay, great. And then is there any sort of COVID protocol or safety measures that you guys have in place, at least for right now, for when going on a call?
Yes, so we all have masks, and we were all provided shields. So some people can't handle the masks, so they choose to wear the shield. But yes, we are required to wear those at all locations. If you are outside and socially distanced more than 6 feet, it's a discretionary type of thing. But to be on the safer side, we do really push to wear those masks. I mean, with as bad as it is right now. So yeah. It's actually, I mean, everybody actually is very, they're okay with it. I've never had anybody say, I don't want you to wear that. It's even the police departments have them. They're wearing them out on scenes as well. So
yeah, I think it's just kind of become a natural part of culture, right? You know, whether you're wearing one or not, you know, I don't ever question anybody now, like, why are you wearing? Yeah. I mean, this is the part of it.
It's not a problem. And sometimes some of the victims, they don't even, in the moment that they're in, they don't even think about it. I've been on several calls where they're like, I'm sorry, I don't have a mask. I'm like, you don't have to. I just
the last thing on your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then can you speak to the age requirements, or if there's any other special things that you either need to have or need to not have in order to be qualified to be a volunteer responder?
Yes, well, everybody has to get a criminal background check, because we are working with vulnerable people and we are working in conjunction with law enforcement. We don't really have an age limit per se. It's really if you're suited to do the work. You know, we want to make sure the person's mature enough to handle the expectation and everything that they're going to deal with and see. You know, we really need to make sure that they don't obviously have any felonies or anything like that. But what we look for first and foremost is really something that can't be trained. I think it's that innate ability to be compassionate towards people in a difficult time, that desire to help, that selflessness to get up in the middle of the night, to drop what you're doing, to be in the middle of a grocery store and to tell the cashier, I'm sorry, I got to go do this thing. You know, we really need people that are compassionate, probably is the number one thing. Non-judgmental. We are an agency that serves everybody and anyone that needs it, no matter race, creed, orientation, anything. We will help regardless. We take pride in just in being there when needed for whoever. So really a non-judgmental perspective with people, because we can't begin to understand what people have gone through, and we don't want to further injure them or make the situation worse. So really being non-judgmental and compassionate and just being able to companion with someone is probably the most important thing. And patience, you got to be patient. You could be prepared for something and all ready to go, and you have to be flexible and patient because things change at a drop of a hat. And you have to be able to go with the flow and be there to support it. And just have time to give, you know. I think if you want an opportunity where you are truly making an impact on such a profound level, this would be for you. If you want to make an impact that could truly change the trajectory of someone's healing process, this is for you. Because by us being on scene, we know without a shadow of a doubt that we are decreasing the long-term mental effect that this has on those that we serve. So.
I just want to add too, I think that it's important to know that even during the interview process, just the questions that they ask and how, you know, like she was saying, the innate ability to be able to be compassionate and that you have a desire to serve others. There's a lot that is said and learned through the training process. It really is not just for anybody. You really have to be able to be compassionate and empathetic. And I think a lot of us that do volunteer have experienced some kind of trauma in some form in our life. I know for myself, I experienced something traumatic back in high school, and I didn't have anybody that I could count on or go to. So it was important to me to be able to be there for other victims that need somebody there. You know, whether it's not their parents or it's, you know, a boyfriend or a girlfriend or, you know, whomever, they shouldn't have to go through it alone. So that's what really drove me.
Yeah, well, thank you first for sharing that and for being willing to be that person in that what's probably a lot of people's darkest moments or one of their darkest moments, to be able to, you know, like you shared in your story earlier, be that shoulder just to sob on, or that that person who can just listen as whoever the victim is vents or screams or whatever their emotion is in that current moment. That is amazing, and we are blessed to have you in our community to be able to do this, and the work that you guys do is phenomenal. The last question that I kind of have is, you know, obviously you are dealing with vulnerable people, vulnerable populations. Can you speak to a little bit about your confidentiality policy for volunteers?
Yes, throughout the whole training process, from pretty much orientation onward, you are bound by confidentiality. We don't ever want someone to believe that we are going to talk about their personal circumstances outside of our group. We ensure that our data that we collect for the grant is never any identifying information. We are a 501c3, like I said, 100% grant funded organization, but we do not need any victim survivor information to fulfill our grant requirements. So we don't store any of that information. And we make sure that the confidentiality is signed every year on a yearly basis. And before every meeting, we remind everybody about the confidentiality. And the only time we ever really share any of our calls is to really help work through if anything did not go quite as we anticipated, or if something went really well, to really train the other people on those circumstances, because we are responding to pretty much anything and everything. You know, we really have to take each of those calls and pull out those important learning parts to help train our volunteers so that we are continually getting better and doing better to meet the needs of those that we serve.
Great. Yeah, I have to imagine no matter how many calls you've been on, everyone's probably something new, something you haven't seen before.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There are times that you will arrive on scene, and then when you're all done, you're like, where did that come from?
what just happened?
That's not supposed to happen. What do you mean they brought a cooler of beer? It just doesn't.
Yeah. Well, it also does speak to the fact that everybody responds to trauma differently, right?
That's exactly correct. Yes. Yep. And there's no right or wrong way in how to do it. You know, you can't go and tell them, you can't drink that. You guys just lost a family member. Why are you all drinking beer right now? That's not our job. Our job is just to be there for them.
Yeah, great. Well, we're running short on time here. So once again, could you let us know how to get in contact with you if we were interested, if we wanted some more information? How would we do that?
You can find our website. It's victimcrisisresponse.org. Took me a moment there. On there, you can find all of our information. There is a link for our application. You can call anytime, and we will, and you can find us on Facebook. So just search for us online.
Well, thank you one more time for what you guys do. Thank you for being here and supporting our community, especially in some serious times of needs. If you heard something that spoke to you, please reach out to the team and let them know that you'd like to learn more or that you're interested, because it truly is, I think you could tell through Cheryl's kind of stories that she shared with us, it truly is a life-changing experience, not only for the people that you're responding to, but also for the volunteers themselves. So thank you for attending this session of VolunteerFest 2020.